Hi, today, so I'm joined with Adam O'Hearn, the co-founder of Remote Staff Seeker.
What's going on?
With the wife, Daisy.
Yeah.
So today's video is about virtual assistants and trying to hire a virtual assistant to try to make certain that they're doing not just the low-level tasks, but if you've got systems and processes set up and you're able to use a virtual assistant, obviously Remote Staff Seeker is based with Filipino VAs. And obviously for anyone that knows you is like, I want to be an Adam O'Hearn. Because like you have managed to reduce a lot of your workload. You play a lot of golf, you do a lot of traveling, you have a lot of time for family and friends. And there's certain people out there which could be more successful financially, let's say, than yourself, but they're digging their own grave. They're working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And actually you need to have this kind of work-life balance of making certain you're enjoying the journey. So for anyone that doesn't know what a virtual assistant is or a VA is, can you briefly explain basically what is a VA?
Yeah. It's just someone that works remotely from their house or where, if maybe they have like a Starbucks they go to or something, but it could be anyone from anywhere around the world. The people that we employ happen to be in the Philippines, but yeah, it's just pretty much anybody that works remotely.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a good story from yourself where you initially needed some help yourself on video rankings. And where was it initially you went on that you found Daisy?
So a long time ago, I think it was probably about 14, 15 years ago, I used a website called onlinejobs.ph, which is a pretty big VA place where you can find virtual assistants in the Philippines. I found Daisy on that website. I was actually looking for someone who knew how to use a specific software. And I got two people that replied, and the first person didn't end up working out. They kind of said they were good at everything, but that didn't end up being the case. And then the second person was Daisy, who's worked with me now for, over 14 years. Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know Adam, right, Adam's got a very, very, very successful business over in the States. He does a lot of lead generation and SEO in a broad spectrum of different industries. The family's got an amazing concrete resurfacing company, and Adam's managed to build that up and generate a lot of leads. But it's pretty fair to say, I might be overstepping the mark here, but that pretty much now the day-to-day running of your SEO and lead generation is run by Daisy. Daisy pretty much runs the establishment and the organisation.
Definitely.
She's the one that hires the staff and puts the systems and processes in place.
Right.
But for a lot of business owners, they're like, wow, this is out of this world. You've managed to reduce your workload and have someone run this completely. And at times I wind you up and say, oh, he's really lazy and stuff like that and stuff. And he's just out on the golf course and I'm grinding away in the office. And I'm like, that's where I want to be an Adam. But the truth of the matter is, when it just reduces your workload, it allows you to think and innovate and maybe integrate things like artificial intelligence and stuff like that. But also, you do a lot of the networking events, like you always come over to Chiang Mai, you'll come over to a lot of other SEO conferences, and you're obviously the one that's coming in here doing the private masterminds. And then I know Daisy, if you're watching this, sometimes will get frustrated because you'll come away from the mastermind with ideas and then you're like, right, Daisy, I want us to test this, this and this. So for anyone with regards to reducing the workload, it doesn't mean now you're not working and they're not in the know-how. What's your thoughts then, just a little bit off subject away from virtual assistants and hiring VAs, of the attending of, let's say, SEO conferences? Do you get much from it yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So although I don't do a lot of the physical day-to-day operations, I would say I'm more of like the ideas person in the business. So I do a lot of learning, I read a lot of content, watch a lot of content, and come up with ideas. Like if it's for lead generation, I might be looking at a new niche that we want to go into and build a lead generation site or something like that. Daisy's the one that, I send over my plan, or we'll sit down and have a chat. Hey, let's target this niche. I want to start generating some leads, or, whatever it may be. We might start a YouTube channel or, something like that. Yeah. So we'll sit down. I'll come up with kind of the rough idea of what we do. And then, we'll have a discussion, and then Daisy we'll put a plan together, and then Daisy will make sure that it's delegated out to our team so that we can get everything implemented and start generating the leads or start whatever it is that we're trying to do, because we do a few different things.
Yeah. So with regards to a virtual assistant, I think it's very important to make certain you've got the systems and processes put in place.
Definitely.
But also, I don't know if anyone's ever read the book Think and Grow Rich. And if you've ever read that book, you'll understand that thinking is actually the hardest work you can do. Mm-hmm. Daisy will completely disagree with me saying this, but it's the thoughts of you being able to pull something together or looking at a niche, which is the hardest part to set up. Once you've got an SOP, whether it's for search engine optimization or Facebook ads or for PPC or for lead generation or whatever it is, that system's a rinse and repeat process.
Right.
Like, you can get a low level, like minimum wage type of VA to do that work if it is just follow these steps.
Right.
The thinking part can't be outsourced to somebody like a VA. But why do you think is it that I always get asked a lot, and I wanted to get you on because one of the most common questions is, for me, obviously I run a lot of different websites and a lot of different businesses, is what's the difference between a good SEO and a great SEO? And I always say, it's not really the knowledge and any knowledge bombs or hacks that people are doing to manipulate to get to the top of Google. You need to make certain you've got good quality content, topical authority, good quality links, and a technically well-built site. They can all be systemized once you know what good quality looks like and stuff like that. So I always talk about the 3 Ps. I always talk about prioritization, procrastination, and a perfectionist. And I think they're the main 3 reasons of why people don't hire a VA, if I'm being honest with you. Yeah. Like, do you seem to, when someone first is inquiring about hiring a VA, do you feel you can see this sometimes, like it's taken ages to get the SOP from them because they're just trying to perfect it, as opposed to getting a job done? Like I always say to you, and you always say the same, like, a job 70% done is better than the job not being completed. Right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And people are perfectionists and want to get it 100% right. And it's like 70% is good enough. Right. Like Kyle Roof talks about, you don't need to be faster than the bear. You need to be faster than everybody else that's running away from the bear. Right. And you just need to do enough to beat your competition. Definitely. Is there any kind of reasons you feel, or when someone first comes on hiring a VA, can you see those 3 Ps in certain people? And do you think over a longer period of time they start to realize, wow, I'm getting so much more done now by hiring VAs? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know for myself, I personally struggled when I first hired Daisy, my first VA. I was a perfectionist. I would get analysis paralysis and want to make sure everything was perfect. And, it slowed me down, and it was hard to release the reins and just let go and let someone else take that control, because you feel like you can do it better than everyone else, and you want to protect all your work and make sure it's done perfect. So I definitely struggled with that myself. And then I think I saw some sort of content somewhere, and it was talking about like letting go and just like taking that step to let a little bit go, and so you can grow faster and scale. And I took that step, and it worked out really well. Like Daisy stepped up, she took responsibility of a lot of the stuff. I still would check her work and make sure that everything was good initially, until there came a point where I was like, she's probably doing it better than I could do it. You know what I mean? And then we, grew more staff members and stuff. And you have to have some checks and balances. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that don't want to give up that control. And, I guess you just have to choose, because, if you don't want to give up the control, you're probably going to work longer. You're not going to have as much time to spend with your friends and family. And that was a big priority in my life. I wanted to be able to spend time with my friends and family. And I had the positive thoughts that like I could make this work if I put enough time into it. Like eventually I could get to the point where a lot of my workload was off my shoulders and I could have a system in place that could implement the work, and I'd have more time to golf, hang out with you in different countries, and spend time with friends and family and stuff like that. But I think that's a big thing for a lot of people. I think the people that are the most successful with the VAs obviously are the people that have the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, and they take the time to train the person. It's a bit more work on the front end than if you probably didn't hire a VA, but quickly after that, it can be a huge advantage because you've got a lot of weight lifted off your shoulders. And once you feel confident with that person, it allows you to have more free time and you can scale faster.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously there's lots of benefits of hiring a VA, a virtual assistant. And I want to now talk a little bit about it's not as easy as what sometimes people just go and hire 5 VAs. Because obviously you've just been talking there about the training and the development and the setting up the SOPs. And especially when they're not in the same office as you and you don't know what they're doing, it can have its disadvantages by not being there outside going, can you just do this? Or you're not doing this quite right. No, and I don't want it to be that I'm just there promoting Adam's business, but remote staff seeker, in my opinion, is an absolute must, because you want to be trying to make certain that the virtual assistant, that they are being tracked, so you're knowing when they are logging in and they are logging out for work. And no disrespects to the Philippines, it's the same in South Africa, and it's the same in Bangladesh and Venezuela or wherever else you're looking to get a virtual assistant, in India and in Pakistan. Like, we've got, and in Vietnam and stuff like that, in Thailand, we've got VAs all over the world, right? But when we previously used to have VAs and we used to go to places like onlinejobs.ph or Upwork or Freelancer or People Per Hour, and then many other places that do kind of outsourcing kind of jobs and works and then hiring a VA. My issue was, I had a VA where the mum had died 4 times and she kept forgetting her excuses, and like next door neighbours' dogs died, so they're off for a week, and electricity's cut out and stuff like that. So I'm not doing it for you just to promote, let's say, remote staff seeker, but I'm genuinely saying you need to have a managed VA system. But like, talk through a little bit about that, like with regards to why it is important for you, right? Obviously, you've got Remote Staff Seeker, which is the best VA business, I think, in the world, right, bar none. But why someone who's watching this, if they are looking to potentially hire a VA, why they should be looking to a Remote Staff Seeker to have it managed. All right, it might cost a couple of $100 more than if you went direct and found someone. 1, the onboarding is difficult and the interviews is difficult. But 2, it's the management. Like, you're hiring a VA to reduce your workload. You then don't want to then just put all your workload into managing them and checking the times and doing everything. So just give like a 30-second brief of being, maybe, I'm not saying some excuses, but just certain reasons of why you feel a managed VA system is better than physically trying to go direct and get someone, even though it might be slightly cheaper.
Right. I think if you're hiring a VA, a lot of times those VAs are probably going to be from a different country. I mean, it could be from the same country that you live in, but a lot of people get VAs from different countries. And I think a lot of times there's a cultural barrier there where both cultures don't fully understand the other person's culture. So that can be a gap that can, I believe, cause some issues. That's one thing for us, why it's helped out is like Daisy is from the Philippines where I hired her. So she understands the Philippine culture. She's worked for me for over 14 years. So she has a very good knowledge and understanding of like the Western culture, the US culture. But aside from that, as well, one of the things that I think is probably a problem, like you said, there's a lot of excuses that come up, and not all, but I think a lot of times what we found and what I had talked to Daisy about, because she knew a lot of other people that were VAs for other people, and a lot of times they might they might be a full-time VA for 2, 3, 4 companies at one time. You know what I mean? So sometimes those excuses might come up because they're working on their other,
business.
Yeah, the other business that they work for or whatnot. So, that, or one of the other things, I think in the Philippines, their culture, from my understanding, they don't like a lot of confrontation. So I've heard a lot of stories from people who had a VA from the Philippines. Things were going very well. And then all of a sudden, one day, they never heard from that VA ever again. That's a very common thing I've heard. And I think a lot of times it might have to do with, that culture they don't like. Maybe they felt like they screwed up on something, and instead of coming in and just saying, hey, I screwed up or whatnot, I don't know. This is just my guess.
Yeah, they just go missing because they don't want to tell them.
They don't want that confrontation, They're embarrassed or something like that. And I think Daisy's kind of confirmed some of that stuff.
I think also with regards to like Filipinos, like you said, is that there's certain things that I've had to learn. Like Daisy might say, oh, they're off next Monday. I'm like, why? And they go, oh, it's a certain, like in the UK, it calls it like bank holidays, where there's certain holidays put in place in the Philippines that's not the same as being in the UK. But if I didn't know that, I could be causing a bit of confrontation with someone. No, you're not having next Monday off, which is the norm for people in the Philippines to have that day off. Or just like there's certain bits of they're very, like in the UK, if you're like a day late or 2 days late on payments, they're kind of like, oh, I'm going to get it. I know I'm going to get it. Where in the Philippines, like you pay on time, like you've got to make certain you pay on time. Like you're literally a day late, and then they start freaking out thinking they're not going to get paid, right? And overthinking things and stuff like that. Also, certain things like health insurance, kind of the importance of you as an employer paying health insurance for in the Philippines, where in the UK we've got the NHS. You don't really need to be paying for health insurance. So when I was like, no, I'm not paying health insurance. That could be the difference between you landing a quality like VA versus if you're not paying health insurance and every other employer is. And it's like less than $100 a month. Do you know what I mean? So you just pay it to get the better quality VA. Like you've said there, like Daisy is Filipino, so she knows that culture, and that makes a big difference. So if anyone is now watching this and they're going, do you know what? I am working hard and I do need to get a virtual assistant. How do is it remote? What's the website for remote?
RemoteStaffSeeker.com.
Right, and they just go through there and they inquire and fill in, and then Daisy will get back in touch with them.
Sure. Usually the way it works, they would fill out a form or whatever on the site. Daisy would set up a discovery call with them, get to know their business a little bit more, what kind of skills they're looking for, and then we would, go into our database. We'd also, try to vet the top 3 people, let's say. Sometimes it might even be more than that. And then we would have a Zoom call where we introduce the customer to a bunch of different VAs to see if one of them would fit what they're looking for. And then they could choose who they would like to work with. And, but like you said, one of the things that I think there's pros and cons to everything. You can go direct and hire a VA and, have a great VA, and you'll probably save a bit more money over hiring one with an agency. But you might not have that, one of the benefits of an agency, I would say, would be that they're employed through a Philippine company. So that gives a lot of safety, to the employee. They feel like, oh, this person can't just bin me off in 2 seconds or whatever. You know what I mean? Because there's labor laws and stuff like that. So it provides them more protection. So a lot of the people there, I feel they feel more comfortable with that versus going someone direct or whatever. Not to say that it wouldn't work, but it's just there's pros and cons to everything. You might pay a little bit more for the managed agency, but it might provide them more security and stuff. You know what I mean? And we monitor them too.
At Remote Staff Seeker, they've got customer support, so at any point they can pick up the phone. They've got if they've got any issues that they might want to vent, but they don't want to vent it to a US or a UK company because they don't want confrontation. To another Filipino, they might be able to pick up the phone, oh, I made this mistake. And Daisy might be like, just be honest and say it. And Daisy might even help construe, like put together an email of just say this, it's fine. Human error is normal, it's okay. So then they don't just go missing. So they're there, Daisy's there obviously to support them. Plus you've got 2 or 3 people full time consistently looking at universities and colleges to find the best people. Like the difference of us trying to find a VA ourselves in the Philippines compared to you going out there. Like there's been times you've come back and gone, I've got 20 VAs here which perfectly fit the job role that you want. And I couldn't even find 2 or 3. And the 2 or 3 that I found, none of them was as highly qualified as the ones that you'd found for me. So it just made sense for me from a business standpoint and reducing my workload. And it's a fraction of the price of paying a full-time wage, obviously in the United Kingdom, or if you've got the US. I'd still try to get like salespeople in the UK or salespeople like yourself. You do still do a lot of the calls for your US clients. It's just the fulfillment now is able to be done. And you're spending that time working on the business, not in the business. It also gives you free time to innovate. I kind of always say on my videos, if you don't innovate, you're going to evaporate. But you can't innovate if you don't have time and you're just in the trenches doing the work. So for anyone who's watching this and you're thinking of hiring a virtual assistant, head on over to remotestaffseeker.com. Daisy will get back in touch. If you're uncertain, go and look at Adam's profile. He's on the golf course every other day. I'm going to call him out. He is lazy. No, but he's got a great lifestyle because he's managed to then get the VAs in place to run the business. He's got a very, very successful business over in the US. Remote Staff Seeker now has grown massively, and that's a very successful business as well. I strongly recommend anyone looking for a VA to head on over to remotestaffseeker.com. So it's been a pleasure, mate. Good speaking to you.
Definitely.
Cheers.
Cheers.